Hi everyone, welcome back to another video for ICM 2.0, the Python version. In this video, we are going to talk about using Python in our processing sketches. I'm sorry, using random in our processing sketches. I hope we're using Python. The first thing that you need to know about random is that there is an entire Python package called random that you can import and use in your program. And that's not what we're talking about today, because processing, the module, the library, the thing that we are working with, it has a random function built in that is decently intuitive. You don't have to import anything extra. And since we're already working with processing anyway, we're keeping it all in the family. If you are interested in learning about how to import random and use that within a Python sketch, please do a Google search on it. There's a lot of resources. It's probably one of the first packages that people learn how to import when working with Python projects. So it is out there if you want to learn. It's just not what's being covered in this video today. So we've actually seen random happen in prior projects. You saw it when we were talking about using system variables to center things. We were using random to get a random size on our canvas. And I just want to show you what this looks like. So if I wanted to get a random number, I could type in my random function, and let me make my font bigger. I could type in my random function and I could stick numbers in here and it would generate a random number. This is just going to send a number out into the world. If I want this to be useful in some way, I'm either going to need to save it to a variable, print it out, or use it inside another function. So to get us started, I'm just going to print a random number. And before I print it, I need to tell the computer what range I want my random number in. Now, random can work in two ways. If I were to say 0 to 10, random would give me a number between 0 and 10 exclusive of the number 10, which means it's really showing me numbers 0 to 9 as my possibilities. If I were to just put, I don't know, 10 in, it's going to give me a random number between 0 and I believe 10. It may also be 9, but that's worth testing and maybe checking things about. I can also put in something like 25 to 36, which would give me a random number between 25 and 35 if I don't want my random value to start at 0. So you can set ranges, you can give it numbers. If you give it one number, it'll always be 0 in that number. If you give it a range, you can shift that away from 0. Now, you can also go as high as you want. I could do numbers through 200, for example. And if I were to run this, you guys are going to see that I get my little console to pop back up. And my random value here is 106.77, on and on and on forever. If I hit stop and run again, you're going to notice that I keep getting random numbers. Now, this is all happening in setup, which is why I am just getting one random number. If I were to do this inside draw, a function which runs forever, and here I'm just copying and pasting it in, you're going to notice that it keeps generating random numbers endlessly. I'm going to stop it so we can just see. And it is a very wide range of random numbers. This is mostly important because in just a moment, we're going to see how we can use this in a shape. And if we're generating a shape with random values in the draw function, it's going to make the shape go crazy on the screen. It's going to be like getting bigger and smaller and looking insane. And sometimes we might want that. Sometimes it might be a little like flashing images could trigger a seizure, and we want to find a way to tone that down. So I am going to try and make an ellipse. And if you are someone sensitive to flashes, please look away for this section. I'm going to make an ellipse in the center of my screen, which in this case is 300, 110. I'm going to make it, let's use random here. I'm going to make it a random size, and I'm going to make it 200 in height. Sorry, I guess it's just a random width. And I'm going to go ahead and run it. And you can see I have this circle that's now doing this crazy thing that almost looks like it's spinning because the width is turning. I could have this happen for both of them. And now you'll see it's getting kind of sizes in all directions. This is fun. If I wanted this to be static and I wanted to put my value directly in my shape, without using a variable, I could just stick this in my setup. And I'm going to go ahead and comment out my background because that will cover up my shape. It'll draw the ellipse and then draw the background over it. And now when I hit play, you'll notice that I'm getting a different ellipse, but it's different every time I run it instead of changing constantly throughout. However, this can be annoying. I might want to keep my background here. I might want to still have an ellipse that uses a random value. And that's where using variables can be really helpful. So I'm gonna make a variable, and we saw it with size. I'm actually going to do this, I think, with position. I'm gonna have it like change coordinates around the screen. I'm gonna do circ x, and I'm gonna try and do circ x equals, what is my width? 600, so that it can go anywhere on the screen. I'm anticipating this might throw an error my way, so let's plug it in and just see what happens. I'm putting in an ellipse, I'm putting in circ x, I'll make the y centered, and I'll once again make it 200, 200. Now if I hit stop and I hit run, oh, it worked out fine for me. This is running fine. It's showing my circle at random positions across the page, which is beautiful. The error I was anticipating happening is the one that I think I've talked about in previous videos, where sometimes processing can get a little mad when you try and use processing functions outside of a range. So this is an example where I might choose to, I don't know, give it like a value of 0 here. And then in setup, I could make that value global, and I could give it a random value inside of setup. And I just want us to keep this in mind, because if that error does get thrown our way, this is something that we could utilize to clean it up, is using a random value or any function that we need inside setup, declaring values in setup, learning how to make things global in other places. I'm sure we'll see it come up in a future code along. Now, this is working out great for me. I think I'm actually going to, in fact, practice making things global in our next activity. Random, just like mouse X and mouse Y, it's just a number. So anywhere that we have seen a number, we can plug in, I'm just going to change that back since I got rid of my variable. Anywhere that we've seen a number, we could use a random value. We could utilize one for colors, we can use it for the whole color or for individual colors. And so I think that's what I'd like us to see now. I'm going to try and make global variables here. And again, I'm expecting we might get errors, but that's okay. Rather than making them up top, I'm just defining them as global. I'm going to give blue a random value out of 255 and green a random value out of 255. And then, oops, I'm actually going to call it blue color and green color because I don't know if blue and green are saved words. Let me make this color and color. So I just updated my code a little bit. Again, the reason for this, I don't know if blue and green are words that are saved somewhere else in my library. So I just added the word color after, because that seems unlikely to be saved in my library. And then I'm going to go ahead and give this ellipse a fill. In my fill, I'm going to give it 0 for red, and then I'm going to fill in green color and blue color, and we're going to see what happens. Oh, it looks like I got a very green shape. I got a very blue shape. It looks black probably on the screen, but to me on my computer, it's like such a dark green. It's like almost my hair color. I'm getting different blues. So you can see that there are various amounts of that blue and green happening. And again, this is just an example of utilizing global variables where I'm declaring them as global inside of a function so that I can use them in this place and in other places as well. It would probably work outside. You're welcome to give that a try. I just wanted to show us something a little different. So this is working great. But what if I want my whole color to be random? So I'm going to just call this circ color is going to be my variable name now. And I'm going to make circ color equal to a color, which is a data type that I can use in processing. And this is expecting to get at least one number, but to make a colorful color, a red, a green, a blue, and there is that optional fourth value that I'm not dealing with yet. And for each of these, I'm going to give each of them a random value. The tricky part of this is that you're dealing with a lot of parentheses and commas, and that can get confusing. You can see here I have a double parenthesis at the end. There's a world where you may get errors talking about I'm missing a parenthesis. And as a matter of fact, let's see that error right now. If I hit stop and run, you'll see that I get syntax error, bad input on line 9. That is just telling me there is some typo, and my typo is, of course, my missing parenthesis. So I'm going to go ahead and add that back in. If I run it again, it'll probably still get mad at me because my fill is empty. It wants at least one argument. If I were still making my code, I might plug a random number in as a placeholder, but here I can just go ahead and plug in circ color. And it should parse out those numbers for me, read them as a color, And then I will get a random color every single time with my just one variable. Random is such a powerful function. We are going to see it in so many places. It's a nice little tool to have in your back pocket. And I'd recommend you spend some time playing with it, looking through the curriculum and going through some of those challenges. You will definitely see this in future lessons, and I look forward to learning our next steps with you. Bye.